would make me emotional.
I'm heavy,
right.
I'm heavy in the chest right now.
Where's George?
I'm so sorry. He had a heart attack.
The culmination of episode 12, the family receives the news, unfortunately, that George has suffered this fatal heart attack. It's a moment the audience has been dreading. It's a moment I'm sure you guys have been dreading having the film.
The fact is, I knew because of the history of the Big Bang, I was emotionally prepared for this from the pilot, at least the potential of it. Right. And so I was just thankful for every day and every season and every episode I got to be on, knowing that potentially they could explore that before the show ended. Right. And so mostly I was grateful to get to the end. And it was only in this last season, till we got close to shooting it, that we know details about how it was going to play out. And there was a lot of speculation always, certainly from fans and certainly from us wondering how it was going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the writers are really leaning into something with this that I think is a gamble, but from my perspective, a really beautiful way to do it, regardless of how challenging and potentially polarizing it might be.
Let's talk a bit about episode 12, the tragedy that ended last week's episode.
Can we not?
I wish, but we got to rip the Band-Aid off.
Fine. Ugh.
Well,
I was liking you so much.
As Sheldon, you have to be kind of stone-faced. You process things a bit differently. What sort of conversations did you have with Steves, Holland, and Milaro about how to sort of emote or not emote in that scene?
I'm sorry, the way you phrase Steve's, Holland, and Milaro is the funniest thing because, on our set we have Steve Holland and Steve Milaro. Mm-hmm. We have a few other Steves. We have Mr. Steve Lim. We have just a lot of high-up Steves. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we just refer to them as the Steves. The thing about Sheldon is it's less of an external, like you were saying about him being stone-faced, I think, for other characters, maybe that stone facade is crumbling from the outside in. For Sheldon, it's from the inside out. One of the first takes we did, I sat down in the chair the way they wanted me to, and I kind of started to let my face fall and almost, not quite cry, but, kind of start to get emotional, and Steve Milaro said, don't even do that. It's 1,000 times more heartbreaking if we see that Sheldon can't even begin to imagine processing or understanding that, to the point where his mind won't try. It's almost as if he's heard them talking about the weather, because it's just such a... And I really liked that interpretation.
It was... it was very difficult. It was difficult to grieve the loss of this character and, the ending of this run, and these things were happening simultaneously. And so, I think audiences will see a very kind of real reaction. For sure.
Let's talk about the moment when Mary opens the door.
What's going on? This was intense. I do vividly remember filming it, and we had actually shot kind of the beginning of that scene leading up to the door. We kind of wrapped that, and then we were like, okay, now we're going to approach this moment. And because I'm standing a bit in the foreground, I'm not totally privy to, what's happening behind me with Annie and Reagan or Mima and Missy, although I can feel it, and I don't know that I was planning it, but I was angry at the news.
And angry is reasonable.
It's like, don't take this from me.
Lance, were you there off camera while those scenes, when they find out, were being shot?
No, I'd been around quite a bit, and I had finished before they were shooting that. I was wrapped.
You were there that day.
Show. I was there earlier that day, but I made my I deliberately was not there. I thought my absence would be helpful for the actors and appropriate for that moment. And I wanted to wait and see it on the screen with everybody else.
Sheldon, of course, doesn't get a proper goodbye with his dad, but he imagines all of these alternate realities where he might have gotten that final goodbye, or he might have found a way to spend a little more time with George that day.
I love you.
I love you too, son.
What was it like for you and Lance filming that? I have to imagine that, even more so than the scene where everyone finds out, must have been quite emotional.
Yeah, and it was weird because unlike the scene in which everyone finds out, it's a moment and it's a very quick thing that happens. And even filming that scene, it wasn't a long scene to film. And I think with the scenes with myself and Lance in the kitchen, since we were doing so many of them and it took a while, we had a lot more time together. And Lance is such a funny, good, kind person, and he's so smart and so interesting and so fun to talk to. But like on set, he's always just funny and kind, and he makes everyone's mood better, especially towards the end when it was getting kind of hard because people were realizing, it was kind of dawning on people that, oh wow, we have 3 episodes left, 2 episodes left, 1 episode left, 5 days left, 4 days left. He was very instrumental in keeping everybody's morale up, I guess, and kind of seeing him towards the end start to get a little affected by it hit me harder than I thought it would, because he's always the funny one in between scenes making jokes, making us look unprofessional because everyone's laughing, and then they all action and we're still, snorting with laughter. And kind of having that moment with him, at one point we kind of just like looked at each other a few times and I'd just go like, thank you. Mm-hmm. And that struck me.
We see Sheldon give a eulogy, and it's beautiful. And then we find out that this is not a eulogy he ever gave. This is the eulogy he wishes he had given.
Honestly, I thought it was perfect. I think it is meant to be a little bit upsetting because more than anything, we want to see Sheldon up there. We've seen him the whole episode not processing at all what's happened. And I think in a way we kind of want to see him sort of feel some emotion, because to us, or to somebody who has experienced like grief before, it's such an alien seeming, like, you don't usually see people just kind of fully go blank. I mean, sometimes that's some people's way of dealing with grief, but I think for a lot of the family, like there's a lot of scenes with Missy saying, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you? Our dad just died. And I think it's such a beautiful moment until we realize it didn't happen. And I think knowing also that it's Sheldon as an adult, now a father, looking back and kind of wishing that was what he said, I think it adds more layers to it than if it were something that Sheldon had got up and said and done, which almost makes it more beautiful.
I'm getting offered a coaching job at Rice.
Really?
Let's talk a bit about George's final days, because things were starting to go his way. The relationship with Mary was on a good track, and he gets this offer to coach college ball. They're about to move. Everyone's really excited.
Minus Sheldon.
Minus Sheldon, yes, that is true. But Sheldon is never excited about anything, so that is totally expected. But, there was also this potential, I think back to season 1 when George bets Georgie that he will be married before he turns 25.
Georgie, I'll bet you $1,000 you're married before you're 25.
You couldn't have known then that your character would still be around to see Georgie and Mandy get married. Knowing how well things were going for George, did it make it all the more difficult to have to say goodbye to this character now?
That's an interesting question. It was difficult in the story, for sure. I feel bad for George and Mary and the whole family. The stakes were so high. And I think that's also good TV. I imagine that was pretty deliberate on the writer's part to build it to that point, to again emulate what people go through in life and the beautiful tragedy of it. So it is a kick in the gut, and that's an extra added weight to that kick in the gut, that things were just starting to felt like they were just starting to work out after so many ups and downs in this family.
Yeah, I remember reading the script, and I knew we were getting the news in the script, but I hadn't yet read it to see how that happens. And as I start to read it and see all of the plans being made and the excitement, Missy's excitement.
I'd get to be the new girl in a city with malls and a Six Flags.
I was tearing up just reading that, because the loss, it was so incredible, because it was a loss of a future. I was surprised by my own reaction to Georgie's marriage, because, I think maybe there was a suggestion that I might be emotional, but I was truly emotional up until the end.
Yeah.
I would tear up when Lance would go over to Georgie to congratulate him. And I would tear up at the thought of, it's wild. You get attached to these characters, and I would just think, oh, I'm so relieved that Georgie got to share this with his dad. And it would make me emotional.
I'm heavy in the chest right now.
And that George got to see his son get married before he died.
It was a big deal. That was the first day that I felt emotional as well, and it kept hitting me over and over.
Over and over.
And we're not even featured in that.
No.
There's such a moment with Mandy and her dad.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in that thing.
I don't even
But
think
I was a mess for that.
Yeah, I don't
that
even
scene
think
in the
you
wedding.
see a lot of our reactions because there's just so much going on. But
yeah.
there were a lot of reactions happening.
Yeah. I had a lot
Yeah.
going on in my head that day for sure, and it felt like, it felt like our boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Watching 709 when George is the one to take Sheldon to go visit MIT before they have that about face and decide Caltech.
Caltech?
Caltech.
It got me thinking about the scene in season 3 where you get to take Sheldon to Caltech, and we as the audience get to see that George, even though he was not there to see Sheldon off to Caltech, he was at some point in that cafeteria with him, where Sheldon is going to go on to have so many memories and so many great things happen in his life. Knowing the outcome for George and sort of where we are at this point in the show, does it make a moment like that all the more special to know that George Sr., he had this time with Sheldon, even if he didn't get to see him all the way through?
I remember the shooting that episode, and that was several seasons ago when we visited and entering that cafeteria and seeing that. And it was not lost on any of us that day. Certainly wasn't me. Knowing the eventual outcome of George and knowing that he got to share that with Sheldon was so significant.
I think you'd fit right in.
And we felt it that day, and we certainly were reminded of that with the airplane thing. George looks at Sheldon on their way out the door, even though it lands on a joke at Boston snow for MIT. On the way out the door, he looks over and says, "I'm proud of you, son." And here I go again. But that stuff certainly lands on you after all this time together, and your love for this family.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually forgot that you guys did that.
Yeah.
It's so sweet that you got to see it. Yeah.
We have seen on social media that Lance Barber, who played George Sr., he's been around a lot. He's been on set. He's been sort of cheerleading you guys through this new experience. It's funny to me watching these first couple of episodes because I know that he's present, he's there, he's cheering you guys on. And at the same time, you're mourning the loss of his character. And I'm curious what that feels like to play. Does it feel like you guys are, in a way, almost paying tribute to the great performance that Lance gave in Young Sheldon?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, but he knew that was the storyline. He knew that it was going to come to an end eventually. None of us knew when it was going to be, but I've talked to him about it, and he's very thankful, like the rest of us, to have the opportunity to play this character for so many years. And I'm sure there'll be some type of throwback or something, or he might come in the scene as a ghost or something. You never know.
Yeah, I think audiences would be
I think
very
they'd
excited
love that.
to see it.
Yeah.
They'd love it.
I'll tell you, when we were filming the last episode of Young Sheldon, when we were walking up to the casket and everything, well, he was actually in there, and just, oh my gosh, it felt so real. It felt so real. He was laying there in the casket, and we'd walk up and we'd say our lines, and you were just sitting there and you could see the real tears coming down his face. I mean, it was rough.
Thank you both so much, and congratulations on a fantastic run.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you so much for coming in today, and congratulations on the run of the show.
You're wonderful. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Montana, thank you so much for
I
coming in today.
appreciate it, Bubba. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.